Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela Schwartzman, Strategic Partnership Manager here at BayWa RE Solar Distributions. We are so excited to have you here to our webinar. Today, we are going to talk about discover the features of the FranklinWH aPower X. And I'm super excited to have Dave and Tristan here from Franklin. You guys are in for a treat. They're going to share all the details that you need to know, what's so special about this particular battery. While we are logging on, just a little bit of housekeeping. We have a Q&A section, and if you could please post all your questions or comments or anything you would like us to share, just post it in the Q&A. We are going to monitor that throughout the webinar. And then you'll also find a couple of links in the chat that just gives you a little bit more information, who BayWa is and why you should work with us. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about that. So if I could have the next slide, please. All right, there we are. So in case you haven't worked with BayWa before and you're here for the first time, this is in a nutshell who we are. So we are focusing on your success. And that comes in a couple of ways. One, your dedicated account manager is available to help you to plan effectively with accurate forecasting so you can satisfy and serve the need of your homeowner efficiently. The web store is super easy to use, very friendly design with updated pricing, immediate ordering capability that just makes the order process so much more simple. Commercial services and expert services desk. We have a specialized commercial services desk that offers you expert planning and precise product inventory forecasting for all your commercial project needs, assisting you also with the commercial design planning and more. Pricing, BayWa centralized structure is really beneficial for you when it comes to having consistent pricing all across our US warehouses. And that eliminates any unexpected fees and transparency. It creates transparency. It doesn't eliminate it. Logistics. So we have strategically strategic warehouses all across the US. So you can easily access the products where you need them and wherever you are in the country. With a convenient direct job site delivery, those products can be delivered directly to your construction site or wherever you need it without having the need of a middle warehouse. So if you are a US-based solar installer and not yet working with us, please explore the links in the chat and reach out and let us know how we can support you growing your business. All right, that was the plug for us. If you have any questions, let us know. Without further ado, let's hand it over to Dave Larson, Regional Sales Manager at Franklin, and Tristan Cronshaw, Product Manager at Franklin. I'm so happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniela. Nice to see everybody. My name is Dave Larson. I am with Franklin. I cover the western half of the United States on the sales team. Joining me today is Tristan. He covers pretty much the western half of the United States from a product support, engineering, technical, basically anything a salesperson doesn't do, Tristan does. So we don't survive without Tristan, that's for sure. So the way this is going to go is I'm going to introduce the Franklin company and maybe a real brief overview of our product. And then I'll flip it over to Tristan and he'll dig in a little bit, talk about the features, a little bit more deep dive into how the system works and what makes it so special. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. All right. I'm going to turn my video off for bandwidth reasons, everybody. If you need to see me, let me know and I'll turn it back on. Great. So Franklin, we are, before we get started, yes, poll questions. Can we, one thing we'd like to learn to help us understand where everyone is so we can kind of get a sense for how we want to structure this presentation. The product works in every state, and we've installed in 48 of the 50 states. And so we just definitely want to know where everyone's from. So if you don't mind, I can see the numbers coming in. Thank you very much.
Great East Coast presence here. Let's keep it going. Everybody just share with us.
Looks like we're pretty well represented across the country. All right. Outstanding. Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to do that. Okay. Yep. We're gonna keep this pretty neutral then, since there's just as many people not in California as in California, which is great to see. Thank you all for joining. All right. Okay, minimize that. So again, that's what we're going to cover. I'll just dive right in. I don't want to waste any time. We do have that Q&A button at the bottom. So if you have any questions, please type them as we go. And if appropriate, we'll get interrupted and answer them right away. I kind of prefer it that way myself. But go ahead and ask your questions. So we're going to be talking about Franklin. So I want to introduce you to Franklin first. So we've been around now. We're in our 6th year. We've been installing this battery in homes for about 3 years now. I think we're about to hit our 3-year anniversary on our first install. So we're still a pretty young company, but we've come a long way in a short period of time. Based in San Jose, California, that's where you'll find our headquarters. We also have a large R&D and manufacturing contingency overseas, and roughly 300 people overseas, and 50 here in the States. So we're a little bigger than 300 now. But I do want to point out that all the people overseas and here in the States, we're all working on one product. Franklin is a manufacturer of our battery system, residential battery system. And currently we have 2 major SKUs, the aGate and the aPower. And that's all we do. We don't have solar panels or inverters, or we don't make automobiles or any of that kind of stuff. So we're 100% focused across the whole country, in every department, every division, on one product. I think that's what makes our system so different, is we can move very, very quickly, product changes, enhancements, improvements. If there is a problem, it's all hands on deck. We fix it very, very quickly. And so most don't even realize we're having an issue when we do. So we're financially stable. We started out with investments from Sequoia Capital. We're now pretty much running on our own. We're a profitable company and moving ahead. Like I said, we've moved up very, very quickly. We're still using CATL Tier 1 batteries. We can dig into those technical specs, but we've come a long way. We now have their highest grade utility scale batteries, which is enabling us to have very high density, great warranty life, and very little degradation. So it's a great company to be working with. And then we're regionally based. So this is me out here in the West. We have a team across the whole country. So wherever you are, we have sales support, of course, even up in Canada now, which is new, Puerto Rico. And just to note, we're currently installing in 48 states. We're about to install in Alaska, and that'll give us 49 states. So we're almost there with all the states. And then service-wise, we probably have the best service team in the industry. I've worked for a few companies. I've never worked with a better team. So we have regionally based engineering support, regionally based on-site installation support, and then we have post-sales support that's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Phone numbers up here in the top right. That team is absolutely fantastic. They field an enormous amount of calls. They take calls from homeowners, installers, salespeople, and they're able to answer well over 90% of the calls in less than a couple of minutes. Our average hold time on the service line is less than 3 minutes. So just an outstanding team supporting you post-sale, pre-sale, and even during the installation. And that's what I just talked about. So 12 hours a day and pretty much every day of the year, even the holidays. All right. So before I turn it over, Tristan, I kind of want to give a quick highlight to some of our features from the sales point of view. Tristan will go into these in a little bit more detail, but some of the key takeaways you'll take from today is that because we're an AC coupled system, we work with everything, whether it's a new install, an existing solar that you're adding solar storage onto, whether it's on grid, off grid, we work with everything. Any PV inverter, any AC module, string inverter, doesn't really matter. We work with everything. It's a great feature as a salesperson, knowing when you walk into the home, you know the Franklin system is going to work. We work with any 240 volt, 60 hertz generator. And Tristan will dig into the features of that a little bit more. That through that same generator port, we can also work with EVs, taking power from a car to power the home and charge a battery. So using your EV vehicle as a backup to the backup, whether they need that today or they want it in the future, just what a great feature that Franklin's been able to bring to the homeowner today, rather than saying, it's coming in the future. Bidirectional charging, give it a couple of years, it's coming. We're not waiting for bidirectional charging. We're doing it now. We're LFP technology, wide temperature range, very, very safe battery technology. The concerns about batteries catching fire and all that, those have pretty much gone away. The less safe chemistries are really not being used in home batteries anymore. So that's good news. Very fast commissioning time. Your installers are going to love it. You'll install a battery in a few hours and it'll commission in about 15 minutes or less. Very stackable system. So a basic system of 13 kilowatt hours, you can stack 15 of them up to over 200 kilowatt hours of storage, 160 amps of continuous power. Double that for surge power for starting appliances. So plenty of power there. 280 amp bus bar. We can avoid main panel upgrades. I'll let Tristan handle that one. I'm not an electrician, but I do know it's expensive to change your main panel. And if our system can help you avoid that, that's a great thing for your customers. And we have a 12-year warranty. So 20% longer than most of our competitors, with a big 43 megawatt hour throughput on this battery. No cycle limitations. So a great warranty, peace of mind for your homeowners. All right. So those are some of the takeaways you'll get today, and some more, as you'll find out from Tristan. I'm going to hand it over to him and let him get into the details. Tristan, say hello.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, great job covering that. I want to talk a little bit about the aGate here. The battery itself is very robust, but the aGate is also a really key component for the whole system. So taking a look at some of the highlights here, we do have that 280 amp rated bus bar within the aGate. So that allows us to add generation sources as well as our smart circuit module to the system and meet the sum of the breakers rule. So very helpful if you have large amounts of PV and a number of batteries, you're not going to be subject to the 120% rule. The power control system rating is UL 1741 CRD. That allows us to limit any current going upstream for potential main panel upgrades, right? If you're subject to 120% rule, or also transformer upgrade requirements. So very, very versatile. We like to think that we're kind of living outside of the 120% rule requirements, which were so important for a number of years. Thanks, Dave, for managing the slides there. This product also is rated as a service entrance piece of equipment. So in the East Coast and other parts of the country where you have internal distribution panel and an external meter socket, you can actually intercept with the aGate and use this as the service disconnect. So we've gotten the necessary documentation for AHJ requirements. It's 869A and 67. If that's ever being asked from the AHJ for your installers, we can supply that. And very, very nice to be able to use the aGate as a service entrance piece of equipment. It is our microgrid interconnection device. The MID sits in the aGate, 16 millisecond transfer time. Only very, very, very sensitive, like UPS devices, may see a change when the grid goes down, but standard appliances aren't going to notice the difference. This is the central point of connection for all AC sources. So battery, PV, grid, and the generator module, like Dave had mentioned, all connections in the aGate are AC. Again, this is an AC coupled system. We think that that's the winning solution. It's also very easy for installers who are better with AC than DC style connections. And then in terms of its connectivity, we have an Ethernet connection, Wi-Fi, or built-in 4G cellular capability. We also do have Bluetooth commissioning. So if the installers are on site and the homeowner's not there or it's new construction, they can commission the system via Bluetooth and configure the network at a later point. And then the CAN busing is the communication between the battery itself and the aGate. So your Cat6, you run from the battery into the aGate. Well, we talked a little bit about the smart circuits, but that's an accessory module we'll look at in the next slide. Allows us to do load management for 2 or 3 circuits. They can be preset to shed at specific states of charge. And the intention is to maximize the runtime on the battery. So these are large circuits like HVAC, pool pump, or EV chargers that would be shed when the grid's down and the battery's at a specific SOC. Let's call it 40%, turn off my AC. That's the intention there. And then the last bullet point here, future-proofing. So we want to make sure the aGate's both backwards and forwards compatible with any battery. So the aPower X is our current version, but we're also working on new things coming out much later this year. So we just want to ensure that if a homeowner wants to add a new product from Franklin, they'll have the ability to do so. Next slide, please, Dave.
I think everyone's already seen it. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling with the presentation, but I think I got it figured out.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll just take a look at inside the aGate here. The EMS at the very top, this is the brains of the operation. We have a number of different inputs, communication and what have you. Below that, you can see the PV breaker and the aPower breaker. One thing to note is that these do accept quad breakers. So when you're doing 2 aPower X's for the battery, you can actually land them on a quad 30. The same thing goes for the PV breaker. If you have 2 7.6 or smaller inverters, you could use a quad 40 for that one as well. And those accept Siemens, Square D, Eaton, kind of the basic breakers that are accessible on the market. The PV input's rated for 80 amps and the aPower input's rated for 100 amps. Just below it, you have the optional smart circuit module. So again, this is an additional SKU, but it integrates into the aGate form factor. So it's not an additional box on the wall. And that is our load management, where you can have 2 or 3 controllable circuits to maximize the runtime on the battery. Very, very, very helpful. We gained a lot of traction in the market because of that smart circuit feature. And again, we usually see homeowners opting for the largest loads, but you can also connect sub panels if that's an option. The top input is rated for 50 amps and the bottom is rated for 80 amps. And then we have, yes.
Sorry, there's one question as you're speaking about the homeowners here a little bit as well. There's a question, why is there no ability for homeowners to set their rate PLA? Also, why is there not an option for solar and aPower to feed the home while access is sent to the grid?
Yeah, so we do have the ability for homeowners to set their rate plan. That's through the commissioning step. So they would enter their utility as well as the rate tariff. And if they're in a market with, TOU, it would automatically configure the charge and discharge periods for that specific rate tariff. So we do have that capability. We're constantly adding new tariffs and evaluating new tariffs as they come online and making sure that those options are available for the customers. And then in terms of solar and aPower to feed the home, we do have the ability to do that. So either through the self-consumption or TOU modes, the homeowner would actually be able to have their PV production flow to the home load with the remainder charging the battery. And then any excess would be sent back to the grid, assuming you're in a market that allows net energy metering. So all of those functions are available. And then I do,
Sorry,
I do see that. No problem. I do see that. Yes, we do have the ability to connect more than 80 amps of PV to the aGate. We have an external component called aPbox, which is a remote PV curtailment and monitoring device, which allows us to connect an additional 160 amps of PV to the backup circuit. So if you're thinking about that in kilowatts AC, it's roughly around 45 kilowatts AC. So we are very stackable, not only on the battery side, but also on the PV input. Okay. Yeah, just pause me if more questions come up. Thank you. We can go to, well, I want to just point out the backup lugs and the optional breakers. So we have non-backup lugs and backup lugs. Those are all rated for 200 amps. So the backup lugs are going to be your distribution, all of the circuits that are going to be connected and energized in an off-grid scenario. And then the non-backup lugs are going to be the circuits that, for whatever reason, the homeowner or installer may choose to be excluded during an off-grid scenario. So those would be de-energized and not available to the homeowner. We go to the next slide, please, Dave. Thank you. So one thing of note here, just moving on down the major inputs, we have our grid input as well as the generator module breaker. So those are also rated at 200 amps. Thank you. That is where you would be feeding the system from the main service panel. And then to the right of that, where the generator module is where you would land the output from a portable standby generator or a vehicle to load if the homeowner has an applicable vehicle. There's only a number of those on the market right now, but that's where that would connect. And then the next thing of note on this slide is actually all of our built-in CTs. So we have our site CTs, we have our PV production CTs, and then actually within the generator module itself, we have built-in CTs. So the major takeaway there is that any point of connection inside the aGate will be measured directly by the aGate. There's not any CTs that an installer may put backwards or it put in the wrong input and cause issues down the road. It's dummy proofed in that sense. So we're measuring everything, and then that's going to be reporting back through the cloud and our EMS. Next slide, please. And with that, Dave, I think I'll hand it back to you. If there's other questions that come up in the chat, I'll be able to jump in and answer. Thanks.
Maybe one more question. Can the aGate support a 400 amp service? I don't know whether you've heard.
Great question. The aGate is only rated for 200 amps. So if you do have larger services, it would require multiple aGates. We have a number of systems connected to 400 amp services with 2 aGates. And one nice feature is you can actually group them together from a monitoring perspective. So the homeowner would see the whole system kind of acting as one. However, when the grid does go down, they would kind of operate independently.
That's awesome. There's one more question. If, for example, an ATS module goes bad, can the module alone be replaced?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a number of replaceable components. So relays, the EMS device specifically, and also smaller hardware bits like leveling foot, hold down kits, all can be replaced. So you're not going to have to swap out the whole aGate depending on the situation. You can just replace individual components. And we have a whole dedicated service team and a few individuals that just work specifically with those types of requests. So our focus is to troubleshoot and then get all those parts replaced as quickly as possible so the system can go back online.
Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, that's exactly what he wanted to know. Thank you. Maybe a little extra plug here as you're sharing your questions. Also, please share any kind of feedback you get from homeowners, why they are not interested or what their concerns are. Yeah, we talked a little bit about safety, all the other things. So please share also some of those things and feedback with us so our experts can comment on that.
Great, thanks. All right, I'm back on. So I'm going to talk about the battery itself. The most of the features that the homeowner enjoys, smart circuits, load shedding, whole home backup, vehicle to load, generator backup support, on-grid, off-grid, all that functionality happens in the aGate. And then the battery itself is essentially the gas tank or the storage, which makes it all possible. So the battery, the aPower X, we like to call it, is an excellent battery. It is 13.6 kilowatt hours of capacity. So that's the amount of fuel in the tank. That is a tactical size battery for us. We've learned that most homeowners use roughly 12 to 15 kilowatt hours of battery in the evening hours. And the evening hours are when batteries are most needed. In time of use areas, that's when you want to discharge your battery. And then during grid outages, that's when people are getting home from work, cooking dinner, doing those types of things. So having the capacity available to handle those 4 to 5 hours is how we came up with that size. The output is 5,000 watts continuous, 5 kW. That is plenty of output for most homes. 5,000 watts continuous will handle pretty much all home loads, minus large air conditioning or heat pumps. So what we tend to see is if you're doing a whole home backup, and they want to back up their heat pumps, ACs, spas, saunas, all these different things that are critical during off-peak for some people, we end up doing multiple batteries. So it's not uncommon to have a stack of 2 or 3 or even more batteries for people who want to live a completely normal life when the grid is down. We can certainly handle that. We talked about the chemistry. LFP is widely known as the safest chemistry available. It is AC coupled. You feel secure that not only does it work in every situation, but because we're AC coupled, we have additional power available. So we're not limited by an inverter output. So our system outputs 5 kilowatt continuous, and then any production from the solar would also be available for that continuous output. So if you had 7 or 8 kW of solar, 5 kilowatt battery, your potential is more than 10 kilowatt of continuous power through this system. So AC coupling does have its advantages. We do support a 208 volt scenario. So if you have multifamily homes or some light commercial stuff, we do support 208 volt single phase or split phase operations. So if you have those types of projects, I would connect you directly with our engineering team, and they can help you with design support and ensuring that the site is compatible. We can stack up to 15. The system has all the basic modes: self-consumption, emergency backup, time of use, and also storm mode. Storm mode can be quite popular. That's where the system is monitoring the weather service, and should a weather event be approaching, it would override the mode setting, put it into emergency backup mode, charge the battery to 100% using any means possible, including the grid, and then wait for the power to go out. Should the power not go out and the storm passes and the weather alert is cleared, the system reverts back to its original setting, self-consumption, time of use, or what have you. So pretty nice setup. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are couple of questions. Oh, that was just revoked. I think it just got answered. So is that correct that there's no way to scale power independently of the energy battery capacity?
Tristan.
So I can jump in there. Because we're AC coupled, we only add, if you add additional batteries, you're adding both capacity and power. So we don't have the ability to add only capacity. If you do go from a single aPower X to 2 aPower X's, you would be increasing both the power and the capacity. And then I did answer one other question, but I just want to make it clear to the group. It was unclear for someone who about how many loads the aGate would be able to support. So it's 200 amp rated, meaning we can move up to 200 amps worth of circuits behind the MID. So, accomplishing a whole home backup for a 200 amp residential service or less. However, the capacity of the generation sources is what's going to limit what you can actually back up, meaning it would be a combination of the PV output as well as the ESS output to meet specific load, right? So, for example, if you had 10 kilowatts of PV and 1 aPower X, you're going to be hovering around like 15 kilowatts of power available for those loads.
There was also a follow-up question from the question before. So the answer, it wasn't quite answering the question. Basically, what is the battery inverter capacity?
5 kilowatts. So the battery inverter can charge and discharge continuous at 5 kilowatts.
That's great. And then there's a couple more questions. Maybe if you can answer that. What if a legacy PV system already has batteries, solar edge inverters, LG Chem batteries?
That's a great question. So we do have a number of systems in the field where we've retrofitted with those types of legacy DC coupled systems. I have a number of single line diagrams I can supply if they would like. You can contact me or engineering at FranklinWH and we'll provide those. Essentially, they would be connected to the PV input, and you would be limiting a little bit of the capability of that legacy system because it would only be outputting as basically PV only. You would, be moving your backup circuits downstream of the Franklin system. But again, there's about 4 different configurations for integrating with those hybrid systems. So I can provide more detail. And if there's nuanced questions, again, we have our engineering at FranklinWH.com support email or my contact directly.
Yeah, and you can also, what you mentioned in the beginning, Dave, that was really important that makes Franklin stand out is that regional support, right? So you can also reach out to your BayWa account manager and we get the support in and we all can sit together and figure out those particular items. So that's fantastic. And Dave, there's a little compliment also. Nice to hear for small business multi-housing using 208 compatibility. So.
Yep. Great. And one last thing I think I mentioned early on was that we are an off-grid battery. Take it out of the box, install it, plug it in. No need for a grid connection. It'll simply start up, charge it with a generator, charge it with solar, charge it with whatever you have. But off-grid, out of the box. What that really means to me, 2 things is when I'm sitting with homeowners, I often talk about off-grid because we're talking about backup power. So when a utility power goes out, you're off grid. So it would make sense that your battery was off grid capable. And that's where the black start comes in. So if the power went out in the early evening and the power's out all night long and there's no solar to charge at night, so your battery runs to 0. In the morning, if you don't have off grid or black start functionality, if the grid is still out in the morning, your battery is dead. There's nothing there to form a grid to turn your solar back on. We have the ability to form a grid with our power that's in reserve. Essentially, the solar system believes the grid's on, so it turns on, starts producing power, charges the battery, and then, of course, turns on the home loads and supplies the loads. So no action required from the homeowner and no action required by the technician, even if the batteries run to 0 in an overnight outage situation. So really nice system for a homeowner.
That's excellent.
This slide kind of demonstrates the question earlier about stackability. So as you stack the batteries, the capacity increases starting at 13.6 times 2 times 3 up to 204. And the same thing with the inverter output. So we start at 5, and as you stack them, they get to, you can see at 8 batteries, we max out at 38.4. 38.4 is 160 amps. So our controls set the limit at 160 amps. And then the same thing for the surge protection or the surge power, starting your appliances, it's just doubled for each one, capping out at that same level of 160 amps times 2. Black start, I think I covered that fairly well. I forgot I had this slide, but if there's any questions about black start, it really is one of our greatest features. Just state of mind for the home, but peace of mind for the homeowner. They can run their battery, or if they're not home and it goes to 0 and they didn't know the power was out, that's the most common situation. Because the battery works so well, they don't even know the power's out. So you still did laundry, still cooked dinner, and kept your heat pump going all night, and you wonder why your battery was dead. The good news is it will start back up in the morning. So a common complaint I hear from install teams, and even though I'm a sales guy, they do corner me when I'm out in the field and say, "Hey, why is your battery so heavy?" Yeah, it's heavy. No question about it. This battery is a little shy of 400 pounds, which, by the way, the homeowners love. They walk up to it, they touch it, they move it, they try to shake it, and it just doesn't move. It's built like a tank. It's overbuilt, it's heavy, it's durable, it's built to last. However, that's kind of bad for installers, because it's heavy, it's hard to lift. Well, we've got this great little lifting dolly here. You use your cordless drill on the back of this device to lift it up and down. It has the strap on it. This makes it very easy for one or two people to get the battery up off the ground onto the mounts, or even if it's ground mounted, these oversized tires that are lifted up off the ground so it sits steady. You can even sit the cart at a 45-degree angle and it doesn't move away. So this dolly lift cart, I don't know what else to call it, really makes installation easy. You don't have to add people to your battery install team if you have a tool like this on hand. So definitely think about that. These are available through your distributor. However, we did sell through them pretty quick. We might be out till the end of February, but stay tuned. We'll restock those pretty soon. 208 capability. Someone mentioned in the chat, this is a great feature. Please, when you come across a 208 situation, new constructions, like new commercial construction, multifamily homes, apartments, small hotels, things like that. This is a great product, seamless integration. It's the same SKU as the 240 volt version. We simply configure it at 208 during commissioning. So very simple thing to apply. And now I want to talk briefly about our application. We recently updated the app. This makes me happy. This is the new app right here. I don't have a picture of the old app, but I can describe it pretty easily. The old app was designed by an engineer, and this app's been designed by a marketing person. So yeah, everyone's smiling at that, but it's true. So this is great. The homeowner looks at this picture and they see everything they need. I love this. How much power are they using? Everyone always wants to know that. How much power is the solar producing? Are you importing or exporting? What's the state of charge of the battery? What's the generator doing? Is it on? Is it off? Is a car connected to it? That would show up here, et cetera. So everything at a glance. So this is for that homeowner that just wants to know what's happening. But then there's also all the menus that you can dig in, download usage data, download historical data, put it into, it downloads into Excel or PDF so that that engineer can still get to that data that they want to crunch. They can still do that if they'd like to. So it's all there. Storm ahead, storm mode, we talked about that earlier.
There's a question on the app, if I could jump in here.
Yes.
What type of notification does the app produce to warn the homeowner that the grid has gone down?
So the app does have a notification pop-up that appears during a grid outage. It's not a push notification, so they do need to go into their iPhone or Android and enable push notifications so that it will pop up during the outage. It's a great question. That is the most common problem, is the power's out and they don't know it, and they don't adjust their energy usage and they run their battery dry a little faster than expected. But yes, it does have that pop-up. I want to jump. So, oops, sorry. All the modes are there. So this is kind of the engineering backside so that homeowner can really dig into not only what has their usage been and all that, but they can put in economic data and estimate, has the battery saved them any money if they're in a time of use zone, for example, things like that. So a lot of data available, and there's really no limit as long as they are the owner of the system. That data is stored for them at no charge. Those are the 3 backup modes or use modes. Time of use, if you're in that area, self-consumption. And it is worth noting the new app, if you are in a time of use area, you can take the application, open the camera, simply take a picture of your utility bill, and it'll automatically upload the time of use schedule from the bill. So it makes it really easy for the homeowner to do that time of use settings. Storm mode, I think we did that one pretty well.
Little follow-up question. Is it planned? Is an automatic push notification planned for an outage?
For a planned outage? No.
No, is an automatic push notification planned for outage?
Are we planning on adding that? Is that the question? Yes.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Yes. Yeah, we are. Yes. Our software and our products are being updated and improved constantly. Push notifications and one thing I know that's been asked that they're working on, hopefully come soon, is not only will it push through the app, but it'll also send them a text message. So that's soon to come as well. I think that would be a big improvement. Handle that question. And then this part of the app, I do enjoy, believe it or not. Homeowners have a lot of questions. Our people get phone calls from them pretty much every day. Now, I'm certain it's every day. All kinds of questions about how to set the time of use, or what's the difference between time of use and self-consumption, or how do I turn off the blue light, the state of charge indicator, those types of questions. They can call in, they're welcome to, but they can also jump on the app, and we have a questions and answer area. We also have the ability to chat with our people. The phone number for service is in there. We do want the homeowners to be able to communicate with us should they have any questions. So that is available for them as well. Reliable and bankable. We test ours like crazy. I put this slide up just because I think it's funny that we're trying to catch it on fire. So we do try and catch them on fire. They don't catch fire. That's the chemistry of the LFP. So that's good news for our industry in general, whether it's a Franklin or a competitive brand. Everyone is using this chemistry now, and it's quite safe. We dropped it. We over-test it. And my next slide is my favorite, is Clyde here. So we do submerge test our batteries. So if you're in the sales world, I highly encourage you to go to YouTube and search for Hurricane Ian and Franklin, and Clyde's video will come up. Clyde's a homeowner in Florida whose home was flooded up to this line on the wall here that you can see, and he talks about how his house was flooded. One thing he says in the video that I find funny is only two things kept working during the hurricane: his wife and his battery. So Clyde's a great guy. It's a great video, but it just kind of gives a testament to the durability and the strength of the Franklin system. Submerged in salt water, the battery kept working. As soon as the water receded, he was able to turn his breakers back on. His battery worked, and his home had power when no one else's home in the area had power. So pretty nice video to share with your homeowners. At this point, I'd like to kind of open it up to questions. I can flip through a few pictures of some installs. Tristan, if you have anything else to add at this point, you can. But this was.
I'd just like to mention something you had brought up about the enclosure rating. So it's fully IP67 rated up into the wiring enclosures. It's about 30 inches from the bottom of the unit. And then these are installed from Massachusetts to Arizona. So part of it being heavy is it is over-engineered, but that allows it to be more robust in those higher, lower temperatures. And in those lower temperatures specifically, we do have a heating blanket that will come on 32 degrees or less that keeps the cells warm so they can charge and discharge at their peak capacity. So that's built in. It's not an accessory. It just comes with the unit. So just wanted to add a little bit on there because I know we have people from all over the country on the call.
Thank you, Tristan. There's a question on the tariffs. Do you have any tariff concerns? Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have tariff concerns. That's a great question. So one of the tariffs that was going to take hold, there was a battery tariff that was already in place from the previous administration that was going to come in 2026. That tariff is still going to happen. So we were prepared for that. We are bringing a portion of our manufacturing into the United States. We will be making our aPower batteries in California very, very soon. That will give us a domestic content level high enough that we can avoid those tariffs. And we are watching very closely the politics of today. And because of that initiative we had already put in place, we're very confident that we'll be able to work with whatever new laws or tariffs come about. We're prepared and ready to react as necessary.
Thank you. There's another technical question. Can you explain the differences between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 PV input? For example, existing 11.4 kilowatt, 60 amps PV, looking for Franklin.
I'm I want to understand the question correctly. The PV input has not changed from the earlier versions of aGate to newer versions. It's always been listed at 80 amps. One key difference, though, is the ability to support the quad breaker. So if you do have an inverter 7.6 or less, you may be able to quad it up without using a combiner panel. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Speaking of the newer versions and aPower 2, we heard the aPower 2 is coming. Let me ask it differently. Why should someone get the aPower X right now, or should that person wait?
That's a great question. So we are developing a new battery. The aPower 2 is in process and will be shipping soon. Should a homeowner wait? Not necessarily. The advantages of the aPower 2 are very minimal. It's a little bit more capacity and a little bit more power output. But because we're AC coupled and we're already at 5,000 watts, I think the power output is fine. And the less than 10% increase in capacity may not be worth the wait. The aPower X is proven. We've been installing it for 3 years. Our failure rate is less than 0.1%. It's a proven solid battery. If I was the consumer buying, I would go with the proven battery and maybe let aPower 2 come out for a year and consider it then. But right now, aPower X is great. And it is worth noting, if you have aPower 1 or aPower X today, and 2 years from now, you want to add the next aPower, they will be backwards and forward compatible. So you'll be able to add the newer battery to your existing system, regardless of what stage of battery you had. So we're very mindful that people do change their usages and need more storage or more solar in the future. And we've designed our system so that you don't have to start over. You simply just add on.
That's fantastic. I think there's a follow-up question on soon date, meaning when are you going to start producing in the US? I think if there's more clarity on a timeline.
Yeah, I can give a little bit. So we're going to be producing as early as the end of this quarter. So by the end of March, most of that capacity is going to go directly to the TPO financing because they're able to take advantage of the additional ITC benefits. For us, it gives us not only that advantage in the TPO world, but it also allows us to say that we're manufacturing in the US at a percentage above the number that's required to avoid the tariff. So there's 2 wins there with that. Don't expect that product to be available on the open market right away, but later in the year, I think we'll be able to make some of it available to the open market.
Right. Now, there was a picture with a very, blue light.
Yes, yes. There you go.
So the question here is that blue light dimmable? Whoa, that's a bit much.
Yes. So the excellent question. I remember when I first started a few years ago, I did get that call. Hey, the battery is outside my bedroom window and I can't sleep. It's like the sun is up. Yes. So yeah, the homeowner simply goes into the app and turns the light off. And it is worth noting that light is a state of charge indicator. So these 2 batteries are fully charged. As they are being used and the battery state of charge drops, the light will go down with that state of charge. Being bright is not always bad. If it's in your garage, like at my house, and you have to go out to the garage for dog food, I don't have to turn on the lights. I just walk out there and get the dog food. So it is kind of nice. But yes, a very common question. Just go into the app and turn it off. Yep.
Another saving of energy right there. Since we have a little bit time, how about the EVs? Can you talk a little bit more? Does the vehicle 2 load work with all EVs? Can you color that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'd love to. And then Tristan will correct everything I say because I can say it like a salesperson. So our EV connection is a one-way direction connection. So we're not using the charge port or the EV charger. What we're doing is if a vehicle like a Cybertruck or an F-150, Chevy Silverado, GMC, Denali EV, those larger EVs, those trucks, they have a 240 volt output in the back of the bed. That 240 volt output was really designed for job site usage, to run a welder or run a tool or whatever. We can run a plug, a 240 volt 3-prong plug, just like you would for any tool. And we can plug that device into our generator module with a NEMA 14 outlet. So you're simply going to plug the truck into the generator module or the aGate, and now your vehicle is backup to the backup. So if there's little to no solar access, the battery state of charge drops below, I think it's 20%, then it will engage with the vehicle, draw power to supply loads to the home, and any excess capacity would be used to charge the battery. Once the battery is full, then it stops drawing from the truck or the vehicle. That is the same way we operate with a generator. With a standby generator, we automatically turn on and turn off the generator to do that same function. With a portable generator, the homeowner has to manually plug in the portable and start the portable. Just like with the vehicle, the homeowner would have to go out and manually plug in the truck to the thing. But then the aGate takes over from that point on. So it's a really nice system. Looking forward for the person who wants to have that additional capacity during long outages. No need to buy a generator, just plug in your truck.
I want it. It sounds great.
Yes.
So there's another. Tristan, did you want to add to that, or?
I think Dave did a great job. Yeah. And in terms of, I can handle the spacing question too. So we are UL 9540A listed. The spacing between units is 4 inches laterally, and then 6 inches above. All those are clearly outlined in the manual. It will depend on if your AHJ allows that UL 9540A report.
All right, there's another question on the EVs. Do you see it, Dave? You want me to read it out?
I don't have it up. Go ahead and read it.
Okay, so using that approach, would limit charging rate 14 to 50 outlet, 32 amps maximum charge rate. Redundancy, yes. Primary, no.
That's exactly right. It is not designed to be the primary backup to the backup. It's just supplemental power. If the truck output is only 30 amps, that's what you're going to get, 30 amps. And there's probably not going to be a lot of excess power beyond the loads unless they manage their loads well. So, yep.
All right. There's a couple more questions. Any static from inverter manufacturers about tricking them to stay on in-grid down scenarios, bypassing rapid shutdown?
No, so because the battery is completely grid forming, we don't have any issues with keeping the batteries online, and we use a relay. So it's a 0 or 1 type relay to turn them off. So that allows us to be completely inverter agnostic, even for those very old legacy style inverters. We're not connected to any type of RSD device because we're connecting only to the AC output of a string inverter. So the RSD for the PV system is isolated. It's basically different than the Franklin system. But we do have, it's worth mentioning, an EPO, emergency power off button, that can be connected to the system that will de-energize all sources, right? So it'll turn off your PV as well as the batteries for first responders if the AHJ is requiring that, or if you just want to put that in for additional safety.
Awesome.
Great.
Are there any more questions from the audience? Now is your chance. Dave, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the picture on the screen right now is, I like to talk about this one. This is in Bakersfield, California. So this is a ranching operation. They were running this ranch on a 148 kilowatt generator, diesel generator, burning fuel like crazy. So they came in, added, I believe, 80 kW of solar, 6 of our batteries, and they're still running this ranch completely off grid. The generator is still on site, and we use the generator as backup to our system. To my knowledge, it's never been turned on again, but it is still there. So this is Bakersfield, California, out on a ranch. Before anyone asks, yes, since this install, we have covered it. It is shaded now. If you're not familiar with Bakersfield, California, it's kind of like Phoenix. It's super hot and super dry. So we've covered those batteries.
All right, there's a question on fire safety codes. Are AHJ scrutinizing for enclosures to meet fire safety codes?
Yeah, I mean, AHJs can be very particular. I don't know if the enclosure itself, but they do follow the UL 9540A listing very, very closely. So that 4-inch spacing needs to be adhered to.
Yep. Most ASJs are asking for 6 inches, which is our guidance, even though 4 inches is okay. And then in some regions, we're seeing 36 inches spacing, which can tend to be a challenge where we're, having a larger capacity battery like ours is a good idea.
And somebody's sharing that we are seeing some demand 2-hour rating closets.
Yeah, not super familiar with that requirement. It could be in specific markets.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are at the end of our webinar. It's certainly not the end. And, you can always reach out to your BayWa account manager and to, of course, your Franklin team that's regionally available. I am super grateful that you took that time today, Dave and Tristan, to share some of the unique features of the aPower X. Thank you for that. Thank you for your partnership. We really love being your partners. And thank you, the audience, for participating today.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Have a good day. See you all.
Thanks, everyone.